Now let's be honest, the Jurassic Park movies aren't really seen as terrifying, most just view it as exciting, which is fine, but it sure would be nice to implement some horror aspects into the franchise. Well, you're in luck. The Michael Crichton novels paint the most terrifying aspects that would possibly arise from working with dinosaurs, from trying to put your intestines back inside after they were torn out, to being paralyzed and slowly eaten alive. Some of these characters we know from the movies, but their novel fates are much worse, so let's get right into it. First up, we have Ed Regis. This guy spends the entire first book brown-nosing Hammond and pretending dinosaurs are just big scaly puppies apparently. Ed spends the first book bragging about how safe Jurassic Park is, hyping it up like it's the next Disneyland. But when the T-Rex breaks free, Ed's marketing skills don't exactly help him. He spends the entire novel reassuring everyone that Jurassic Park is perfectly safe, only to abandon literal children Lex and Tim the moment things go south. It's poetic justice that his death came from the hands, or rather jaws, of the park's own creation. After fleeing the Land Rover during the adult T-Rex attack, Regis hides in the jungle hoping to avoid the carnage. Unfortunately for him, the park's juvenile Tyrannosaurus is nearby. After the adult Rex breakout, Lex calls out to Grant, and this gives Regis some confidence since he thinks the surrounding area is safe. As he begins to walk back down to the road and is watched by Alex, Lex and Tim, who are higher up in the jungle. They observed Ed pressed up against a tree like he's hiding from something. The forest turns quiet as the juvenile Tyrannosaur is seen from the haze. The Rex seems a bit awkward, almost like it doesn't know how to effectively get around. Once Ed thinks the coast is clear, he begins back his journey, only to be knocked down by the young dinosaur. It then waits for Ed to get back up again, then knocks him back down. Basically, it was using this man as a plaything. It did it again, but this time, it pushed his head down and tore into Regis. Unlike its fully grown counterpart, this young Rex isn't experienced in killing yet, so the process is drawn out and horrifyingly clumsy. The juvenile Rex catches Regis and clamps his jaws around his torso. It doesn't kill him outright though. Instead, it starts toying with him, chewing on his body, while Regis screams in agony. The Rex's inexperience works against Regis here. Its bites are shallow at first, tearing through the muscle and skin rather than delivering a quick, lethal blow. Regis can feel the sharp teeth puncturing his abdomen and cracking ribs, each bite sending waves of unimaginable pain through his body. As the juvenile Rex continues its practice session, Regis screams fade into silence, as the other antagonists watch as the juvenile raises up his head, with chunks of Regis in his mouth. Talk about adding insult to injury, or in this case, adding a slow and painful death to a lifetime of bad decisions. In the movie, we know him as the big chungus that gets mauled by a shrunk Dilophosaur, but in the novel, it's a bit different. Dennis Nedry is the guy who thought cooperative sabotage was a walk in the park. Literally, Nedry is the IT guy who shuts down security systems to steal dinosaur embryos. Great plan, right? Except he forgot one thing. The dinosaurs really don't give a crap whether it's lights on or off. In the novel, Nedry gets lost in the rain after stashing his embryo-filled Barbasol can. Then he meets the Dilophosaurus. Now if you're picturing the cute little spitter from the movie, think again. Crichton's version is 10 feet tall with a skull built like a battering ram. When it spits venom at Nedry, the bug describes it as burning like acid, blinding him instantly. He stumbles, falls, and starts screaming, which only attracts the dinosaur even more. The Dilophosaurus isn't in a hurry though. It saunters over him and takes its time. First, it rakes its claws across Nedry's stomach, slicing him open like a Ziploc bag. His intestines spill out, described as glistening loops, because of course Crichton wants you to see the carnage. And as Nedry is frantically trying to shove its guts back in, the Dilophosaurus bites down on his head, its teeth puncture through his skull, splintering the bone like a Kinder Egg. By the end, there's not much left of Nedry, except some wet chunks in the mud. Honestly, if he hadn't been such a sleazy backstabber, you might almost feel sorry for him. Almost. Eddie Carr, Soren's apprentice, who just wanted to fix gadgets and go home. In the Lost World, Eddie's the quiet, dependable type, and to be very honest, in both the movie and the novel, he's the greatest hero in my opinion. But unfortunately for him, being a nice guy in a Crichton novel is basically a death sentence. In the movie itself, this guy already had it pretty rough. After trying to help the main antagonist of the movie, he is torn apart by the Rex Spear. but this seems like mercy compared to the book. In the novel, his brutal death also comes from him trying to save the antagonist. Eddie's demise comes courtesy of a pack of velociraptors, and let me tell you, these raptors don't do it quick and clean. This all occurs when Eddie and some other characters get attacked by one single raptor and head up a high hide. That single raptor drew the attention of more raptors, and these creatures began to jump profusely trying to get to the novel cast. Eventually the raptors began to climb the high hide's welded ladder. Eddie tried to swat at the raptors with a metal pole, unaware one had already reached the top, and lunged at his neck, but it missed. But it didn't drop back down until Eddie stabbed it in its eye with a pole. Eddie then instructs the kids, Kelly and Arby, to get to the roof of the high hide, while he heroically tries to swat off the rest of the raptors. But when he wasn't focusing, one had grabbed the metal pole with his jaws and basically pulls him back, with so much force that he falls out of the high hide and tumbles down to the jungle floor. After poor Eddie had fallen to the floor, the raptors momentarily abandoned their pursuit of the other characters and turned their attention to the wounded hero. Still alive, the raptors begin to tear away at him from every side, from his limbs to his torso and his head. He died relatively quickly, but it was far from painless. Imagine the sheer panic of having your head squeezed like a grapefruit while you're also being disemboweled. His mangled remains are then left on the jungle floor and a large bloodstain covered it. Fans describe this as one of the most sad deaths because in both the movie and the novel, the dude was just trying to help the main cast and just got annihilated in both iterations of it. The only animated scene I think that could describe Eddie's death in the novel is this one. And lastly, at number 4, we have John Hammond. In the Jurassic Park movie, John Hammond is a kindly grandfather who just wants to create a magical dinosaur park. But in the novel, oh, he's a self-absorbed megalomaniac who cares more about profits than people. So it's no surprise that Hammond's death in the book isn't just brutal, it's poetic justice served on a prehistoric platter. After everything falls apart on the island, Hammond ends up wandering the jungle alone, too focused on his grand vision to fully comprehend how catastrophic things have become. Basically, while he's in the jungle, he appears to hear T-Rex sounds and basically tries to make a run for it, but slips and breaks his ankle. But in a cruel twist of fate, it wasn't actually a T-Rex, it was just some T-Rex sounds played by the kids. The book describes the break as clean but agonizing, leaving Hammond immobilized and helpless. And that's when the compies come in. At first, Hammond doesn't see them as a threat. After all, they're small, chicken-sized dinosaurs. What harm could they do? Famous last words. The compy's venom is mildly paralytic, meaning Hammond feels everything as they start nibbling at his flesh. The book vividly details how the little creatures swarm him, biting into his exposed skin. He screams, thrashing to no avail, as their tiny teeth tear chunks from his legs and arms. But the real kicker, Hammond dies not in pain but in denial, even as he's being eaten alive. His internal monologue is focused on blaming others for the park's failure. If only they'd follow up on my vision. His final moments are filled with ego and regret. Ah, John Hammond. The man who thought he could control nature ends up as a light-hearted snack for the park's smallest predators. So yeah, that's just about it. This was just a short video, it wasn't meant to go into great detail. I could do a longer video if you guys want, you could let me know in the comments, but my hopes are that the newest Jurassic World film that's coming out can imitate some of the novels, but I won't get my hope up since after the second movie it just went downhill. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, so see ya.